we're going to talk about how much little brother cost us to get here. Hey YouTube! Welcome to Becoming Housewife. On this channel we talk about budgeting and organization and just have some cute videos of my little babies. And I am talking today about, bless you, those are some big sneezes. Say hi YouTube! Say hi YouTube! Okay, sorry. I am coming to talk to you guys about how much it costs to have an uninsured pregnancy. For me and my husband, the reason why we had an uninsured pregnancy is because I had my first baby in April. I have a son, he's 13 months. I had him in April of last year, and I was a teacher, and after that year I quit my job as a teacher, and I was planning to stay at home to raise my 1-year-old. To get him into our family, it actually took us a few years, and it also took a minor procedure and some fertility medication. And so we just thought that we had trouble getting pregnant. So I didn't go back on birth control after we had him. So we had our 6-week appointment, and after you have a baby, and then shortly thereafter, I got pregnant with this little guy. So what happened was, when I got pregnant, I was still on my insurance with my school, having quit my job. So I quit my job, but I was still on their insurance through the summer because I was technically a teacher until August 1st. And so I at that point, I got pregnant while I was on a different insurance. We had planned on going to Liberty Health Share for our insurance coverage, and they did not cover pre-existing conditions. So pregnancy was actually considered a pre-existing condition, which I think is a little bit ridiculous, but it is in a lot of medical insurances. And so our options were Obamacare, our options were Cigna, and when I priced everything out to have an uninsured pregnancy with them, we would have had we would have had to pay a ton of money if everything had gone the way it should have gone, and we would have had a very high monthly fee. It would have been around $1,000 a month just to have our fee, and then we would have also had like a high deductible. And so that would have been my insurance from September through until I had him in February. So September, October, November, December, January, February. That's like $6,000 just to pay our monthly insurance fees, not including our deductible. And that was a lot of money. And so I started researching the cost of an uninsured pregnancy, a self-pay, as a lot of people called it. So my OB who delivered my first son, he, for all of my regular visits and for the delivery fee, it would have been $7,000 at that clinic. I looked into a nurse midwife, somebody that I know. She lives in my neighborhood. She's amazing. She's so great. And I went to her clinic and I priced it out, and she charged $1,500 for all of my OB visits and for my hospital fee, my delivery fee. So I decided to go that route, and I also priced out all the hospitals in this time too, because with Obamacare, Cigna, I was looking at around $7,000 for an out-of-pocket for just the months of having insurance, and on top of that, getting our medical bills for the baby. So I went with the nurse midwife, which was a huge savings. And then at her clinic, I did have to self-pay for the ultrasound, and that cost $500. So I paid, at that part, I had about $2,000 that I paid out of pocket. And then I called around to all of the different hospitals in my area the hospitals, I had some hospitals that were charging $5,500 for a self-pay plan. And that was the highest for self-pay. And I called around, and then I found a hospital, one that was actually the closest to me, a brand new hospital in our area that has all of these great features. And I actually wanted to deliver there anyways. And they had a plan called the Stork plan that cost a total of $3,000 for normal vaginal delivery. This did not include, what is that called when you want the shot in your back so that it doesn't hurt as much? You know what I'm talking about though, right? Anyway, it didn't include that medication, but it covered 2 nights in the hospital. It covered the pay for the nurses. It covered my food. It covered stay, everything like that for $3,000. So at that point, I was paying $5,000 out of pocket as self-pay. Now, the scary part with self-pay is that you don't know if it is going to be a normal delivery or not. It was a pretty risky move for us because if something went wrong, we had a greater risk factor knowing that we would have to pay for it out of pocket. So it was really scary, but for me, it was so hard to think about the thousands of dollars that we would have had to pay to go on a different plan where we pretty much, the coverage wasn't great either. So I felt like we would have had to pay a lot out of pocket, even if we had an emergency situation there too. So at that point I had paid $5,000. So everything was covered except for the epidural. That is the word I was looking for. So the epidural I called for the first hour of an epidural. It cost $1,000. And then every hour after that it was $350. So I tried very, very hard to not have an epidural. I ended up, though, I didn't realize that I was so close to having him. They didn't check me. I was probably within 30 minutes to having him, but I guess they did check me a half an hour before, and I was at a 4, and then my contractions were coming so strong that I was like, man, if I have to do this for the rest of the night, I need an epidural now. Anyway, I got an epidural, and then I started pushing at 5:05 and I delivered at 5:09, and my epidural had barely kicked in. I had maybe had an epidural for 45 minutes and I had him. And if I would have known I was so close, I probably would have just pushed through it and not had the epidural. But, and I think if they would have checked me, they probably wouldn't have let me have the epidural either. So I did pay $1,000 for my epidural. Now, we had only budgeted the $5,000 for him, so we didn't have that extra $1,000 budgeted, the $6,000. But we were able to make that up, and it worked out okay for us. Sorry about the swing. He's just a little fussy, so I'm sorry if that's annoying on camera. But anyway, so out of pocket, we paid $6,000 for an uninsured pregnancy and delivery. He was insured, so as soon as he was born, he was on Liberty Health Share. So everything for him was covered. And so the only thing that wasn't covered was me. I was the one that wasn't covered, and then he wasn't covered until he was born. But the second he was born, anything that happened with him, he would have been covered. So that kind of lowered our risk factor, knowing that he would be okay. Even if something bizarre happened with him and he needed some sort of medication, or he needed, anything that might have happened, he would have had full coverage with Liberty Health Share as soon as he was born. So it was just me that wasn't covered in a delivery, and I opted to take my chances, and knowing that most deliveries are normal, healthy, everything like that, and I I did self-pay just because I was saving more money. I felt like with Liberty Health Share, I was getting better coverage overall for my family than I would have been if I had put my entire family on Cigna or Obamacare. And so, I guess it's called Cobra or Obamacare. And so for me, that is the route that we took. So out of pocket, including an epidural, we paid $6,000 to get this little guy here. And that is the cost of our uninsured pregnancy. I hope you all have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.